Go?
Yes.
Alright, so everybody likes being prepared. A lot of what you do in your daily life is dependent on being prepared, whether speaking for a speech or playing a game or taking a test. And my quote says, "The best preparation for tomorrow is to do today's work superbly well." And it was said by Osler. And I believe this quote to be extremely true because in sports, as one example, that you never not practice and go into a game. Practice always takes up to a week, sometimes it's 2 weeks, depending on what days your games are scheduled. And you always have to practice, no matter what sport you play, every sport practices. And the amount of preparation usually dictates the amount of success you have in the game. And if you didn't have a good practice and you didn't prepare well, then you tend not to play that great. And this applies, I believe, in all aspects of life. Just as in schoolwork, a lot of us upcoming had midterms a couple weeks ago and upcoming have finals, and a lot of work these past few weeks, and a lot of people, like myself, tend to wing it a lot, just study the day of the test and then, hope for the best. But I've learned this past semester that normally isn't the best approach, and that normally when I study for it, probably weeks or at least 2 or 3 days in advance, the grade you get on the test tends to be a lot better. And so I believe that it's just beneficial to prepare for future instances. And alongside schoolwork, a lot of people here have jobs. And depending on what job you do is dependent on how prepared you need to be. For one case, I work security with a company, and we had a venue we had to work at down in 29 Palms. And the attire you need to wear for security is a suit and a tie. And I had forgotten my tie. And for those of you that know that how far 29 Palms is, it's about a 3-hour drive. And so I'd forgot my tie and I was panicking. And so I asked around, and it looks to be like 2 other people forgot their tie. So at least I thought to myself, well, if I don't get in trouble, if I get in trouble, at least I have 2 other people to get in trouble with me. And so it eventually came out to one of the lead guys also forgot his tie. And so we eventually ended up working the venue, no one wearing ties. Because out of 20 guards, about 8 of them forgot their ties. So we weren't that well prepared, but it turned out to be all right in the end, and everything went successful. But it probably would have benefited everybody to prepare the night before, and not the day of or 30 minutes before they had to leave to go meet up to the buses where they were transporting us out. And just to reiterate my quote, preparation is the best possible way to achieve success. Thank you.
All right, you got a good general statement to start off with. I thought you had a nice transition to the quote and a clear statement of what your point of view is. There's not really a preview. You start talking immediately about the sports example in practice, and I think that that's a good example that you can use, and it's one that obviously you know about, and you could probably tell a little bit more stories on. You get through the basics on it, and it doesn't seem like it has the same personality, for instance, as the last section that you had, where you had an interesting story to tell. So that seemed a little odd, even though it's something that you do all the time, that you didn't have that kind of detail on that first point. On the third point, though, I like the example about the story of everybody not having their ties and how you had to wing it in that situation. You gave some good detail there. You made it a little interesting. It did feel like the school thing and the job thing were structural ideas that you came up with after you thought about the sports thing, and it seemed like that should have been planned at the beginning, and if you just laid that out for us, it would be a little bit more convincing. If you did have it at the beginning, I don't know why you didn't preview it. That would have made it much more effective as a convincing ethos for you as a speaker. Your voice projects well. There's pretty good variety of inflection there. Everything's flowing smoothly. You have basically no gestures because you have the topic in your hand the whole time and you're playing with it. You know, you're kind of folding it and wrapping it up and rolling it around and that sort of thing. And you don't really seem engaged with any hand or arm gestures. Your facial expressions are limited. You have a tendency to look down a lot, Cal. I mean, your eye contact, I don't think you're intimidated by the audience, but I think you're talking in front of us and you're looking down and you're thinking to yourself and you're not connecting with the audience, and that's something that you really want to work on a little bit more. I do think that you come across pretty positively despite that because of the way you speak. Your voice, I think, gets you through a lot of those sorts of things. All your anxiety seems to come out in your hands and feet. Like I said, you feel a little contained there, and there's a lot of weight shifting that's going on back and forth. That's where I think some nervousness comes up. I thought you had a good exit. There's a pretty straightforward reminder of what the theme was, and that's exactly what you want to do to finish pretty gracefully. All right, thank you much. Appreciate that.